Have you ever stopped to wonder what keeps a jet engine running at temperatures that would melt ordinary steel? Or what allows a surgeon to place a metal implant inside the human body and have the body simply accept it, as if it were always meant to be there? What if the same material doing both of those things was also quietly sitting on your bathroom shelf every single morning? That material is titanium, a light yet extremely strong metal. Today, titanium is everywhere in spacecraft, airplanes, submarines, medical tools, bicycles, watches, and even in toothpaste and sunscreen. Yet, beneath its everyday presence lies a remarkable story of discovery, challenge, and innovation. How did this extraordinary metal transform from unnoticed grains of sand into a cornerstone of modern technology? Let's explore the surprising journey behind titanium's history and production. Our story begins not in a gleaming laboratory, but on a quiet riverbank in Cornwall, England, in the year 1791. A clergyman and amateur scientist named William Gregor was examining black sand near a local stream when something stopped him. The sand was unusually heavy, faintly magnetic, and chemically unlike anything he had encountered before. After careful analysis, he concluded it contained traces of an entirely unknown element. He named it Manaconite, after his village of Manacan, and then the world moved on without caring. A few years later, in 1795, German chemist Martin Heinrich Klaproth independently rediscovered the same element. He gave it a more powerful name, titanium, after the Titans of Greek mythology, the giants of extraordinary, unstoppable strength. It was a fitting name, but for more than a century, titanium was nothing more than a promise locked inside a rock. Every time scientists tried to extract it in pure form, it reacted instantly with oxygen when heated, turning brittle, crumbly, and completely useless. It wasn't until the late 1930s and 1940s that a Luxembourg-born metallurgist named William Justin Kroll finally cracked the problem. Working in the United States, Kroll developed a method using magnesium inside a completely sealed, airtight chamber, keeping the enemy, oxygen, entirely out. The result was pure, usable titanium, produced reliably and at scale. By 1947, just 2 tons had been produced. By 1953, annual production had reached 2 million pounds. The sleeping giant of metals was awake at last. So how exactly does a handful of black sand become one of the most prized metals on Earth? The process is as dramatic as the metal itself. It begins in open-pit mines, primarily in countries like Australia, South Africa, Mozambique, and China, which today produce nearly 70% of the world's titanium mineral concentrates. Miners extract rock and sand containing 2 key minerals, rutile and ilmenite. They look completely unremarkable, but deep inside them, titanium is locked up tight. The first step is to break that lock. The ore is mixed with chlorine gas and carbon, then heated to around 1,000 degrees Celsius inside a reactor. At that temperature, the chlorine reacts with the titanium in the ore, pulling it away from the surrounding rock and forming a clear, highly reactive liquid called titanium tetrachloride, nicknamed Tickle 4 by those who work with it. Impurities like iron are left behind as solids, and the liquid is then carefully distilled to achieve purity. Next comes the Kroll process itself. The titanium tetrachloride is heated with magnesium inside a sealed chamber, completely cut off from oxygen and nitrogen. The magnesium strips the chlorine away, and what remains is something surprising: a porous, gray, sponge-like mass called titanium sponge. It looks nothing like the strong, shiny metal we recognize, but it is pure titanium in its raw form. From there, the sponge is compressed into blocks and loaded into massive vacuum furnaces, where it's melted at temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius using a method called vacuum arc remelting. Alloying elements, most commonly aluminum and vanadium, are added at this stage to tailor the metal's strength and performance. The molten titanium is then cast into large ingots, which are forged, rolled, and shaped into sheets, rods, tubes, and wires, the building blocks the world's industries depend on. Machining titanium, however, is a challenge of its own. Because of its low thermal conductivity, the heat generated during cutting doesn't escape through the metal the way it does with steel. Instead, it concentrates directly on the cutting tool, wearing it down rapidly. Special tools and carefully controlled techniques are required to drill, cut, or shape titanium without damaging either the metal or the machinery. So why go through all this trouble? Because titanium genuinely has no equal. It has nearly the same tensile strength as steel, but weighs about 45% less. For aerospace engineers, every kilogram saved on an aircraft translates directly into fuel saved across millions of flights, a difference that adds up to billions of dollars and enormous reductions in emissions. Then there's corrosion resistance. The moment titanium is exposed to air, it forms a thin, invisible oxide layer on its surface that acts as permanent armor. Salt water, acids, and even the punishing environment of the open ocean barely affect it. That's why naval ships and submarines rely on titanium components where other metals would simply corrode away. Titanium is also biocompatible, meaning the human body accepts it as if it were natural tissue. Doctors use it for hip replacements, dental implants, pacemakers, and surgical instruments because it triggers no immune response, no allergic reaction, and no rejection. In 1965, Swedish physician Per-Ingvar Brånemark placed the world's first titanium dental implant, launching an industry that now serves millions of patients annually. And then there is heat resistance. Titanium can endure temperatures that would weaken or destroy most other metals, which is precisely what places it inside jet engines, one of the most extreme environments human engineering has ever created. Here is something most people never realize. Titanium isn't only in aircraft and operating theaters, it's in your bathroom. One of the compounds produced during titanium processing is titanium dioxide, a brilliant white powder that whitens your toothpaste, makes your sunscreen block UV rays, brightens the paint on your walls, and gives paper its crisp white color. Global titanium dioxide pigment production capacity reached nearly 9.8 million metric tons in 2024. The same chemical family powering spacecraft is quietly freshening your smile every morning. Titanium's story is far from finished. Engineers at Australia's Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology have developed a new 3D printed titanium alloy that is roughly a third cheaper than the current industry standard by replacing costly vanadium with more accessible materials while actually increasing strength. At Johns Hopkins, researchers are using artificial intelligence to optimize the manufacturing of titanium parts, making the process faster and more precise than ever before. And in February 2026, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory successfully tested a 3D printed titanium spring aboard a commercial satellite in low Earth orbit, a sign of how rapidly this metal is evolving even beyond our atmosphere. Titanium began as a mystery in a handful of black sand, noticed by a curious clergyman who didn't even realize what he had found. It spent over a century taunting scientists who could see its potential but couldn't unlock it. And then, quietly, it changed the world. It flies in your aircraft. It lives inside human bodies. It orbits the Earth. And it sits on your bathroom shelf every morning. The next time you brush your teeth, board a plane, Or hear about a new spacecraft launch? Take a moment to think about the metal named after giants, because in so many ways, it still is one. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more surprising stories hidden inside the simple things that shape our world.